the start of section 3, we can see that at the end of section 2, the old lady had burned herself in defiance of the firemen. The firemen are talking about what did she say, and this Captain Beatty, and Captain Beatty knows exactly what she was saying. It's this famous statement that these two men made before they were burned for defying the king. So it is supposed to be this statement, and you had to do it on your questions for last week. It's supposed to be this statement that she is aware of what she's doing. She is willing to burn herself alive in defiance of the government, the same way these two men did back in the 1500s. Also, interesting that Captain Beatty just knows it off the top of his head. Either people say this a lot, or he reads books. There's then a gutter here before this next panel, and Montag's home. They get talking about Clarice, and immediately Mildred's just like, oh yeah, she's dead. They're laying in bed, just casually brings it up. Really odd the way she's just like, oh, okay, yeah, that girl died. Montag, it keeps him awake. It's all he can think about. Doesn't understand why she said it that way, didn't tell him before, but maybe it wasn't clear to her really what's going on. Also, look right there. You can see the book. If you didn't catch that before, immediately we do see that book is there if you had any question. The next morning, Montag isn't feeling good. It could be he saw the lady burned alive, or he was told that Clarice died. Both of them. When we first see this, it's makes sense. When he's not feeling good, sometimes you don't like annoying loud noises. He tells Mildred, hey, go shut off the screens, go shut off the parlor. She calls them her family. It's her favorite program. She interacts with them and has such a nice evening. But really, she's just sitting in the parlor watching the screens, talking to the screens. So Montag doesn't feel good, wants help, but she can't shut off the screens, wants to just watch them. On the next page, Montag throws up while his wife is talking about these great programs she watched. Montag starts to tell her that they burnt an old woman with her books. Mildred's just like, whatever, she's crazy, it doesn't matter, she's irrational. But in Montag's mind, he's starting to wonder why she'd do that. Here, when he throws up, we could take this to be, right before he's going to tell about the woman. It makes him sick to think about the woman burning herself. In the book, so not the graphic novel version, it says he even smells kerosene, like he gets a whiff of kerosene on his clothes or from something near him and throws up. And this page here, you at least realize he's not feeling good about what happened to the old woman. But with the book, you get this idea of the kerosene that was perfumed to him in the beginning when he first talked to Clarice now makes him nauseous, makes him sick, and it shows this change in how he feels about things. Can still feel that book under his pillow. He's talking to his wife. She doesn't think he's sick, thinks nothing is wrong. Montag even mentions quitting his job. He's not feeling so well. And Beatty actually shows up. How he knows about Montag being home, it's not Montag's shift yet, because their shifts are at night. But it's interesting that he'd show up right that next morning. So we already have to question how Beatty knows so much. Beatty comes in, sits down, asks Montag how he's doing. Hopes to be feeling better soon. And then Beatty goes into the history of their job. Because previously, Montag had asked, didn't firemen start fires? Didn't firemen put out fires before? And they're like, no, first fireman was Benjamin Franklin. This is always how it's been. But here, Beatty's going to give him the truth. That things started to change with photography, motion pictures, radio, television. Took away from books. People used to read books. Everybody had different opinions. But as the population grew, everybody wanted things the same. There was too many different types of people. With this technology, with the camera, with motion pictures, people care less about books. And if they do read a book, they want it cut down to just 2 minutes, the basics, condense it. It's a digest, like Reader's Digest, just that basic so you can understand a book, but don't have to spend the time. In place of reading books. You don't even want to read about politics, one column. This person did that. But sports, they're fun, they're interesting. You get this group spirit. You don't read as much. You're out driving your car, spending time just sitting, going somewhere else, looking for the next thing. Also, with all these different people doing different things, nobody wants to offend them. Nobody wants to say something a little different. So, people just start writing the same thing. Magazines are just something that offends no one, something that is not different, something that doesn't show maybe a way that someone wouldn't fit in. It's just all the same. So nothing new is published, nothing interesting, nothing unique, nothing with a different perspective. There's still comic books and sex magazines, things that could be more quick, more stimulating, more interesting, but nothing with depth or difference. Here, Mildred realizes Montag has a book, and you can see this look of shock on her face because she says nothing. You see she backs away, but nothing else is said. During this time, Beatty is starting to get on this idea of, nobody wants to read anything different, nothing that would be a different perspective or have to be understood, and starts to talk about how people who did understand differences, the smart kids, would be beat up for it. And that nobody likes someone who's smarter, no one likes someone who's different, everybody wants to be the same intellectually. So they made everyone intellectually, that nobody could think different things, do something different, everybody's presented the same material. Everybody is then happy. Talks about this idea of, in this country, everybody wants to be happy, and a book is like a gun. Is going to have this metaphor that a book is a gun, and it's their job as firemen to get these guns out of there, because guns are dangerous, guns could shoot people, guns could hurt someone. Really, they're talking about books. They're talking about the ideas in books being as dangerous as a gun, and they're there to clear out those books, take away that deadly weapon. Because everything is about happiness, it's about pleasure, and books aren't happy and pleasurable for everybody, so they have to take them away because it could be dangerous to someone else. Montag just says yes, kind of goes with it. They speak about Clarice here. This is where Beatty reinforces Clarice is indeed dead, talks about how she's different, talks about how she'd ask why, want to know things. That's not what their society about. Their society is, here's the information, you like it, you're happy, it's fun, we all get it. They don't want people to ask why, to actually understand or look for origins or really be inquisitive. These books make people unhappy and they need to burn them. These books are like guns, but the damage these books do is they have different theories and thoughts. They confuse people. If people don't get it right away, they don't like it. Beatty leaves and tells him, hey, firemen all get this itch at some point. If they bring a book home, they have 24 hours to bring it back. We'll take it. Nothing said. We just burn it because we understand that you deal with these dangerous books, these books that are like guns, and maybe you get interested. 24 hours to bring it back. Montag goes to that vent we've been seeing all along and pulls out all these books. The book that he had behind his head, the book that he took from the old lady, that was not the first book. He's been collecting them for a while now because they were already there. He wants to figure out why he's not happy. What is it? Because if they're all supposed to be happy because they get rid of books and everything's supposed to be perfect, why is Montag not happy? Why can't he answer that question that Clarice originally asked him? It contrasts with everything Beatty just said. When the books fall down, you can see the look on Mildred's face. She is not all in on this. She is not excited. She has said nothing. She was shocked when she touched the book, and as soon as she actually sees a book hit the floor, grabs it, she tries to run over to the incinerator to burn it. So she is not automatically on Montag's side. She's not just like an instant ally for Montag, and that's going to be one of the interesting things going forward. Montag slaps her and tries to explain, we got to figure this out. We're in a mess. There's all these terrible things. Like, you're not happy. You took all your medication. I don't know what's going on. There's got to be something, some way they can figure out why they're in such a mess. He gives this whole speech, says he needs her so much after slapping her. The look on her face, this does not look like excitement. This does not look like happiness. And also, she has said nothing on the page. She says nothing over here. So she is just quietly kind of shocked. She is not really an enemy against him so much. She's definitely not an ally. She's in that middle ground that in terms of Montag's journey towards being a hero, we have to figure out what is she going to be? What is she going to do? Tells her about Clarice and how she put ideas into his head and that suddenly Clarice is the one person he actually liked. He no longer likes himself, doesn't like the other firemen, and how much it threw him off. Someone comes to the door. We're assuming that it would be Beatty. They refuse to open the door. He eventually goes away. On the last page, he starts to read a book. And you had a question about this last week. He reads from the middle of the book from Gulliver's Travels. It's a satire, so it jokes about culture and life and the way people do things. It talks about people breaking eggs at either end. Mildred's reaction is important here. This is why people don't read books. If you can't immediately have fun or enjoy something or understand it or be interested, this culture has removed it. And she doesn't understand it. She hates it. So this book is an example of why books are gone to her, that it doesn't make sense. They don't live in a society where people have to find the answers, where people have to think. That is why books are gone. People would not spend the time to go through this if they can sit in their parlor, or they can just go and wreck things, or that they always have something that just tells them what to think. This throws them off. But because Montag is so interested, he says they're going to start over at the beginning, actually read so they can understand this. That is not something that has had to happen for Mildred or for anybody else in society in a long time. Everything is just given to them at this basic level that shows no different perspectives, no different thoughts. Supposedly, it should make everybody happy, but Montag realizes he isn't happy, and maybe Clarice was the most interesting or happy person he knew. So he is really going to start to dive in and try to figure out how did they get into this mess. And that is where we go in section 4 and throughout the rest of the book. If you have any questions, concerns, or worries, come to the Zoom on Wednesday. I'll talk to you about anything. Send me an email. I'll respond. This book is interesting. There is a lot of details to connect. So let me know. Have a great day.